Welcome to Rare Breed Brotherhood. Have you ever noticed how some people think shaming someone will strip them of their power, only to find out it backfires in the most unexpected way? That is exactly what happens when you try to shame a Sigma male. What you see as a weakness in him is often the very thing that gives him unmatched strength. He is not wired to crumble under pressure or bend to the weight of public judgment. Instead, he uses it as fuel. A Sigma male knows that shame only works when you allow it to take root in your mind. Rather than letting it control him, he flips it, turning the sting into clarity and the rejection into resilience. The more you try to humiliate him, the more you expose your own insecurities while he becomes sharper and stronger. Silence becomes his armor, discipline becomes his answer, and growth becomes his ultimate revenge. What makes him different is his ability to remain steady when others would react. He does not waste words defending himself. He builds, he rises, and he proves through results that shame has no hold on him. Every attempt to break him becomes another reminder that he is built to withstand storms. So, if you have ever been shamed or belittled, take courage from this. The Sigma male shows that no attack has the power to define you unless you hand it that power. Stand tall, stay calm, and let your growth speak louder than your critics ever could. Let's dive in deeper, brothers. Number 1, a Sigma male never wastes energy defending his reputation. He simply lives in a way that makes lies and shaming look ridiculous. Most people panic when their reputation is attacked. They rush to explain themselves, to clear the air, to convince everyone they are not who the critics say they are. But a Sigma male plays a completely different game. He understands that defending yourself against every rumor or insult is like trying to chase smoke with your hands. It wastes time, drains your energy, and still leaves the smoke lingering. Instead of running around proving himself, he simply lives in a way that makes lies collapse on their own. Think about it in everyday life. Imagine someone at work spreading stories about him being lazy or unreliable. While others would argue back or try to gather allies, the Sigma male just keeps showing up, delivering results, and letting the work speak louder than any gossip ever could. Over time, those same people who doubted him start to see the truth without him having to say a word. His consistency makes the lies look foolish. Or, take friendships as an example. If someone tries to shame him by saying he has changed or is acting distant, he does not start long explanations. He continues being authentic and true to his values. Eventually, the people who matter see his steadiness, while the ones who wanted to shame him fade into the background. This way of living is not about pride, it is about wisdom. He knows reputation built on proof is unshakable, while reputation built on words is fragile. And that is why those who try to shame him often regret it. Their efforts highlight their own insecurity, while he quietly keeps stacking evidence through his actions. The more they try to attack, the more obvious it becomes that he does not need to defend anything, because his life itself is the defense. In the end, the Sigma male teaches us a powerful lesson. The best response to lies is not panic or overreaction. It is living in such a way that truth makes noise all by itself. That is how shame turns into regret for anyone who underestimates him. Number 2, the more you try to stain his name, the more people notice how calm he stays. And that calmness becomes his silent weapon. Most people crack under pressure when their name is dragged through the mud. They become defensive, their emotions spill out, and they scramble to repair their image. But a Sigma male handles it differently. When you try to stain his name, he does not flinch or rush to clean it up. He stays calm, and that very calmness turns into a weapon you never expected. It unsettles people more than anger ever could. Imagine this in everyday life. At work, someone spreads whispers that he cut corners on a project. Instead of arguing in meetings or calling people out, he continues to carry himself with composure. He finishes his tasks with precision, keeps his voice steady, and maintains his focus. While others wait for him to explode or fall apart, all they see is consistency. That quiet steadiness makes the rumor lose weight, because no one can connect the lies with the reality they see in front of them. Or take relationships. Suppose someone tries to shame him publicly, calling him selfish or cold. A typical reaction might be to defend, argue, or fire back, but he chooses silence and calm. Over time, people around him start to wonder why he is so unbothered. That stillness forces others to question the accuser, not him. His calm becomes proof of his strength, while the person throwing accusations begins to look desperate. What makes this so powerful is how rare it is. Calmness under attack is not weakness, it is mastery. It shows that his self-worth is not at the mercy of anyone's opinion. It is like a rock in the middle of a stormy river. The water crashes and foams, but the rock does not move. The harder you push against him, the more unshakable he looks. This is why trying to shame a Sigma male often backfires. Instead of breaking him, you end up highlighting the strength he carries in silence. People notice it, they respect it, and eventually they question why you attacked him in the first place. His calm is not just a response, it is the silent victory that makes your attempt at staining his name look powerless. Number 3. He knows that shame only works if he accepts it, so he strips your attack of power by refusing to internalize it. Shame only has power when you allow it to live inside you. A Sigma male understands this truth at the deepest level. He knows that the words meant to embarrass him are just noise until he gives them permission to sink in, and because he refuses to internalize them, your attempt to shame him falls flat. It is like throwing seeds on concrete. They cannot take root and they cannot grow. Think about this in everyday life. Imagine a colleague in the office makes a sarcastic comment about him during a meeting, trying to embarrass him in front of others. Most people would replay those words in their head, feel humiliated, and maybe even lose confidence. But a Sigma male lets it bounce off. He does not dwell on it, and he does not give it the satisfaction of sticking. Later on, when he continues to work with clarity and even engages the same colleague without bitterness, people begin to realize the insult had no bite. It becomes clear that the attempt to shame him only exposed the other person's insecurity. The same thing applies in personal life. Suppose someone from his circle says he is a failure or mocks him for not following a conventional path. He does not argue back or spiral into self-doubt. Instead, he carries on with his goals, knowing that shame only cuts deep when you believe it. By refusing to accept it, he empties the insult of all its strength. In fact, the attacker is often left frustrated because what they expected to sting leaves no mark. This is why a Sigma male seems untouchable. He knows that his value is not determined by someone else's words. He sees shame for what it really is, a tool that only works if you hand over control of your emotions. By refusing to internalize it, he strips your attack of all power, and over time, those who try to bring him down are forced to watch him keep rising, unaffected and unbothered. Number 4. Instead of reacting with loud anger, he lets silence do the talking, and nothing unsettles a critic more than being ignored. Most people expect a reaction when they throw insults or try to shame someone. They wait for anger, for shouting, for some kind of emotional outburst they can feed on, but a Sigma male refuses to play that game. Instead of reacting with loud anger, he lets silence do the talking. And that silence is not weakness, it is the sharpest response he could ever give. Nothing unsettles a critic more than being ignored, because it starves them of the reaction they wanted so badly. Picture this in a workplace setting. A colleague makes a cutting remark in front of others, hoping to embarrass him or spark a heated exchange. Instead of rising to it, he keeps his composure, continues with his work, and does not even dignify the comment with a reply. That silence fills the room in a way no argument could. People notice that he is unbothered, while the one who tried to provoke him begins to look insecure. The more silence he holds, the heavier it feels on the person who threw the jab. In personal relationships, it works the same way. Imagine a partner or family member trying to push his buttons by calling him selfish or cold. A typical person might argue back, defend themselves, or explode in frustration, but he simply chooses not to engage. The silence becomes its own mirror, reflecting the pettiness of the accusation and forcing the accuser to sit with their own words. Over time, they realize the only person exposed is themselves. Silence is powerful because it removes fuel from the fire. Anger often gives an enemy more material to use against you. Silence, on the other hand, creates discomfort they cannot control. It is like punching into the air and realizing there is nothing to hit. That void makes them question themselves, and that is where the Sigma male wins without lifting a finger. By letting silence speak, he proves that not every battle needs noise. Sometimes the absence of reaction is louder than any defense could ever be. And that is why his critics regret coming after him, because nothing shakes them more than a man they cannot provoke. Number 5. When you try to mock his lifestyle, he exposes how dependent you are on approval while he operates freely without it. When someone mocks the way a Sigma male lives, they often think they are landing a clever blow. They expect him to feel embarrassed for not living the way everyone else does, for not chasing the same milestones or showing off the same trophies. But what they fail to see is that the more they laugh at his lifestyle, the more he quietly reveals their dependence on approval. He does not need that constant validation to function, and his independence highlights how trapped others are by the very thing they use against him. Picture this in a workplace. A colleague might tease him for not playing office politics or for skipping after-work hangouts that everyone else attends. They expect him to feel left out or pressured to explain himself, but instead he simply carries on with his own rhythm, finishing his tasks and investing his energy where it matters most. Over time, the same people who mocked him realize they cannot make a single decision without first checking how it will be received by the group. Meanwhile, he is moving forward freely, untouched by that invisible leash of approval. Or consider social life. Imagine friends mocking him for not chasing the latest trend, whether it is fashion, expensive gadgets, or flashy vacations. They might say he is boring or old-fashioned. But while they are busy competing for likes and attention, he is building something solid for himself. That contrast is undeniable. Their need to show off makes them restless, while his quiet focus gives him peace. What makes this so powerful is that the mockery ends up being self-exposing. When you laugh at someone for not living the way you do, you're really showing how much you need the crowd to validate your choices. The Sigma male does not have that chain on his neck, and the more you try to shame his path, the clearer it becomes that he is free while you are trapped. That is why mocking his lifestyle always backfires. Instead of breaking him, it shines a light on how much you depend on applause to keep moving. And in that moment, he wins without saying a single word. Number 6, he studies every attempt to embarrass him like a chess player studies a move, then turns the lesson into long-term advantage. When most people face embarrassment, their first instinct is to defend themselves, to erase the sting as quickly as possible. A Sigma male handles it differently. He does not panic or scramble to cover up the moment. Instead, he studies every attempt to embarrass him the way a chess player studies an opponent's move. He knows that every insult, every attempt to humiliate carries hidden information, and once he understands it, he turns the entire situation into a long-term advantage. Picture this in a workplace setting. Imagine a manager tries to put him on the spot during a meeting, asking a question designed to make him stumble. Instead of shrinking or lashing out, he takes note of the tactic. He observes not only the words, but the intention behind them. Later, he prepares better, sharpens his knowledge, and anticipates similar traps in the future. What was supposed to make him look foolish ends up making him stronger and better equipped. The same applies in personal life. Suppose someone tries to ridicule him at a family gathering, perhaps mocking his choices or questioning his decisions. He does not argue or get lost in emotional reactions. He watches, he listens, and he processes. That moment becomes data. It shows him who is insecure, who is threatened, and who cannot be trusted. Over time, he uses this understanding to navigate relationships with precision, avoiding pitfalls that would trap others. This mindset is what sets him apart. He views embarrassment not as a wound, but as a teacher. Every attempt to shame him becomes a lesson about people, about tactics, and about himself. Just like a chess master who sacrifices a piece to understand the opponent's strategy, he is willing to take a temporary hit if it reveals the bigger picture. And here is where the power lies. Those who try to embarrass him expect him to crumble, but instead they hand him tools he will use against them later. What looked like a moment of weakness becomes the foundation of his long-term strength. That is why shaming a Sigma male rarely works. He does not just endure it, he transforms it into advantage. Number 7. Shaming pushes most people into explaining themselves, but a Sigma male explains nothing, forcing others to sit with their own noise. When people are shamed, the natural reaction is to defend themselves. They rush to explain, to justify, to prove why the accusations are false. The problem is that explaining often gives the shamer exactly what they wanted: your attention, your energy, and your admission that their words got to you. A Sigma male refuses to play that game. Shaming pushes most people into explaining themselves, but he explains nothing. He lets others sit with their own noise until it becomes unbearable. Imagine this in a group setting. Someone throws a sly comment his way, maybe suggesting he is irresponsible or mocking a choice he made. Most people would immediately respond, trying to clear their name in front of everyone. The Sigma male simply stays quiet, maybe with a faint smile, and carries on. The room grows tense because the silence is louder than any comeback. The accuser starts to fumble, repeating themselves, and before long everyone sees their attempt for what it was, pointless noise. Take another example in everyday life. Suppose friends try to shame him for not following the same lifestyle choices as they do. They poke at him, waiting for an explanation. Instead of arguing back, he gives them nothing. Days later, they are still discussing it, still trying to convince themselves he must care. Meanwhile, he has moved on, unaffected. His lack of explanation forces them to confront the emptiness of their own words. This approach works because silence creates discomfort. Explaining can sometimes validate the attack, but refusing to explain takes away its power. It leaves the critic alone with their echo, their accusations bouncing back at them without an answer. Over time, people notice who stayed composed and who created drama. That is the brilliance of a Sigma male. By explaining nothing, he shows he owes no one an apology for living authentically. He makes others realize that their noise belongs to them, not to him, and in that silence, the real truth becomes undeniable. Those who tried to shame him are left exposed, while he walks away untouched. Number 8. Every insult becomes raw material for growth. What was meant to break him becomes another layer of resilience. Most people treat insults like wounds. They replay them in their minds, letting the words cut deeper each time. A Sigma male takes a completely different approach. He treats every insult as raw material for growth. What was meant to break him becomes another layer of resilience, something that strengthens him instead of weakening him. Think about a workplace example. A colleague mocks him during a presentation, calling his idea unrealistic. For many, that kind of insult would sting and create doubt. But the Sigma male takes it differently, and he goes back, studies his idea more deeply, refines it, and prepares a stronger argument. The next time he presents, he is sharper, more confident, and harder to dismiss. The insult that was meant to shame him has now fueled his improvement. Or consider friendships. Suppose someone calls him stubborn or difficult because he does not follow trends or group expectations. Instead of bending to fit in, he uses those words to reinforce his understanding of who he is. He reflects on whether there is truth in the criticism, and if there is, he grows from it. If not, he adds it to the list of opinions that do not define him. Either way, the insult cannot break him. It simply adds to his strength. This ability comes from perspective. He does not see insults as endings, but as sparks that can be redirected into discipline, knowledge, or clarity. Just like a tree grows stronger by surviving storms, he grows stronger by absorbing what was thrown at him and turning it into fuel. And this is why people regret trying to break him with harsh words. Every attempt adds to his armor. Every insult becomes another lesson, another layer of resilience. Instead of tearing him down, critics unknowingly help him rise higher. The very weapons used against him become the bricks that build his strength. That is the silent victory of a Sigma male. He grows from what others would collapse under. In conclusion, have you ever realized that trying to bring someone down often ends up lifting them higher? That is exactly what happens when you attempt to shame a Sigma male. Every insult, every mocking word, every attempt to belittle him is met not with panic or reaction, but with calm, focus, and resilience. What you hoped would hurt him only sharpens his strength, teaches him lessons, and fuels his growth. A Sigma male turns attacks into advantage. He studies every move against him, absorbs the sting without letting it settle, and channels it into discipline and improvement. Silence becomes his response, restraint becomes his strategy, and time always works in his favor. You might have tried to embarrass him, to stain his reputation, or to shake his confidence, but nothing sticks. Instead, your actions expose your own insecurities while he continues to rise, quietly, consistently, and inevitably. The lesson here is profound. Strength is not built by avoiding criticism or ignoring challenges. It is built by facing them with composure, learning from them and using them to become better. A Sigma male shows that the power to remain unshaken lies within, and no one can take it away unless you hand it to them. So take this as encouragement. Life will always test you. People will try to put you down, ridicule your choices, or question your path, but you have a choice. You can either give your power away by reacting, or you can stand firm, turn adversity into fuel and grow beyond what anyone imagined. The Sigma male is proof that true strength is quiet, deliberate, and unstoppable. And in the end, those who try to shame him are the ones left regretting ever trying. Remember this: nothing anyone says can define you unless you let it. Your calm, your focus, and your persistence are your greatest weapons. Use them wisely and watch as life rewards you far beyond what critics could ever imagine. Thank you, watching brothers.